Derek is 34 years old, makes $95,000 a year as a project manager in Atlanta, and last Tuesday he declined a happy hour invite from his coworkers because he had $11 in his checking account. Not $11 to spare, $11 total. His apartment has a 75-inch TV he bought on financing, a leather sectional that ran him $4,200, a closet so packed he genuinely cannot find half of what's in it, a spare bedroom that functions as a storage unit for a life he thought he wanted. On paper, Derek is doing well. In reality, Derek is one car repair away from not making rent. Now walk 2 floors up in that same building. Marcus is 29. He makes $52,000 a year doing IT support. His apartment has a modest couch, a mid-sized TV, and a kitchen with exactly 3 appliances, all of which he uses every single week. Marcus has 18 months of expenses sitting in a high-yield savings account. He invests 20% of every paycheck before he touches a dollar of it. Same building, same neighborhood, same city. The guy making almost half as much sleeps better, stresses less, and has 10 times the financial security. This isn't about income. It never was. Here's what most people assume, and it sounds so reasonable that almost nobody questions it. More money means more security. Earn 6 figures, stress disappears. Hit 80K and you're comfortable. Cross 100K and money stops being a problem. The data says something completely different. According to a 2025 Lending Club report, 67% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck earn over $100,000 annually. Not 67% of broke people, 67% of 6-figure earners. Nearly 7 out of 10 people making what most Americans consider a dream salary are one missed check away from a crisis. A 2025 Empower study found that the average American believes they need $1.5 million to feel financially secure, yet the median net worth of someone in their 30s sits at just under $35,000. That gap between what people think they need and what they actually have isn't an income problem. It's a possession problem. Because here's what nobody is saying out loud. Every single thing you own is costing you money right now, even the stuff you already paid for. That is the stuff trap. And Derek has been living inside it for 6 years without ever knowing it had a name. Here's how the stuff trap actually works, and why smart, hardworking people fall into it every single day. When Derek got his first real paycheck at 28, he did what felt completely logical. He upgraded. Not recklessly, not stupidly, reasonably. The old couch was beat up, so he got a better one. He'd always wanted a big TV, so he financed one. His wardrobe felt outdated for someone at his level, so he refreshed it. His kitchen felt bare, so he filled it with gadgets that looked incredible in the store. Every single purchase made sense in isolation. That's the trap. Because what Derek never calculated was the second price tag, the one that doesn't show up at checkout. That treadmill he bought collects clothes in the corner of his bedroom. It takes up roughly 20 square feet of space. In Atlanta, apartment space costs around $35 per square foot annually. He's paying $700 a year in implicit rent to store a clothes hanger that once had a motor. That $30,000 car he's financing, beyond the $580 monthly payment, runs him another $3,200 a year in insurance, maintenance, registration, and depreciation. That's $267 every single month before he drives a single mile. His closet is stuffed with 60-plus shirts. He regularly wears maybe 15. The other 45 cost him money to store, time to sort through, and mental energy every single morning when he stares at a packed closet and still feels like he has nothing to wear. Derek didn't just buy stuff. He bought a lifestyle that now requires his entire salary to keep alive. And every single month, that lifestyle sends him a second bill he never saw coming. Let's put real numbers on this, because the math is genuinely shocking. Derek brings home around $5,900 a month after taxes. His fixed lifestyle costs, rent, car payment, car insurance, phone, subscriptions, financing payments on furniture, run him $4,100. That's 69% of his take-home before he buys a single meal or fills his gas tank. The remaining $1,800 disappears into the lifestyle the stuff demands. eating out because his kitchen gadgets are intimidating, gas for the car, replacing items he can't find in the chaos, impulse purchases triggered by the emotional drain of feeling broke. Average savings per month, $0. Now run that forward. Over the next 15 years, Derek will earn approximately $1.425 million. His projected net worth at that trajectory, assuming no market investments, no savings, sits somewhere between $8,000 and $15,000, mostly in the depreciating value of stuff he already owns. Meanwhile, Marcus, earning $52,000, saving 20%, puts away $867 a month. Invested consistently in a basic index fund at a 7% average annual return over those same 15 years, Marcus accumulates $272,000. Derek out-earns Marcus by $250,000. That is not a math problem. That is the stuff trap eating someone's entire financial future, one reasonable purchase at a time.
Here's the part that should genuinely mess with your head. The people who actually build wealth in America don't look wealthy. Thomas Stanley spent 20 years studying real millionaires across the United States for his landmark research behind The Millionaire Next Door. What he found destroyed every assumption about what rich people look like. The typical American millionaire drives a car that's at least 3 years old, lives in a house worth less than $400,000, has never spent more than $400 on a suit, shops at regular grocery stores, does not own a boat. A 2025 Ramsey Solutions study of 10,000 millionaires found that 94% of them live in middle-class or working-class neighborhoods. They don't look like Derek. They look like Marcus. Marcus drives a 2016 Honda Civic he paid cash for. His apartment has no statement pieces, no status furniture, nothing that signals success to a visitor. His wardrobe fits in exactly one standard closet with room to spare. But Marcus has something Derek doesn't have. And it isn't in any room of his apartment. It's options. Marcus could quit his job tomorrow and survive comfortably for a year and a half without touching his investments. He could move cities for a better opportunity without panic. He could handle a medical emergency without going into debt. Derek cannot do any of those things. Derek looks richer. Marcus is richer. And that gap between looking wealthy and being wealthy is exactly where the stuff trap lives. So here's the question, and I need you to actually sit with this one before you keep watching. If you lost your job tomorrow, not eventually, tomorrow, how many days could your stuff save you? Not how long could your savings last. How long could everything you own, your furniture, your clothes, your gadgets, your collections, your gear, actually keep you afloat if you sold it all? For most people, the honest answer is somewhere between 2 weeks and 2 months. That TV you financed is worth maybe 30 cents on the dollar used. That wardrobe you spent thousands on moves slowly on Facebook Marketplace. That treadmill? Good luck getting $150 for it. You didn't build security. You built a showroom. And here's what makes this so brutal. Nobody forced Derek into this. No one told him to buy the sectional or finance the TV or fill the spare room with things he'd stop wanting 6 months after buying them. He did it because that's what it looks like to be doing well. He did it because that's what everyone around him was doing. He did it because nobody ever told him the second price tag existed. The stuff didn't just drain his bank account. It convinced him along the way that he was living a good life. Marcus and Derek have been friends since college. Last Thanksgiving, they were doing dishes after dinner when Derek made a comment he meant as a joke. "Man, I'm rich on paper, but I'm always broke. I don't even know where it goes." Marcus didn't laugh. He set down the dish he was drying and said something that stopped Derek cold. "Bro, when's the last time you needed something, like actually needed it, and bought it? Because everything in your place looks like something you wanted once." Derek didn't respond, but he couldn't shake it. 2 weeks later, Derek did something he'd never done. He walked through his apartment with his phone and wrote down everything he owned. Not to judge it, just to see it. He counted 67 shirts, 11 pairs of shoes, 4 kitchen appliances still in the original packaging, a guitar he hadn't touched in 3 years, a projector he bought for a Super Bowl party and used exactly once. He didn't feel like a successful 34-year-old. He felt like a storage unit with a lease. Over the next 4 months, Derek sold $3,400 worth of stuff he genuinely did not miss. He canceled 6 subscriptions he'd forgotten he had.
He paid off the furniture financing and automated $800 a month into an index fund before his direct deposit hit his checking account. He didn't deprive himself. He just stopped paying rent on a version of himself he'd already outgrown. 6 months later, he had his first real emergency fund, $4,800. He texted Marcus a screenshot. Marcus sent back 2 words: "Welcome back." Here is the uncomfortable truth buried underneath all of this. Most people aren't buying things. They're buying a story they want to believe about themselves. The TV isn't a TV, it's proof that you made it. The car isn't transportation, it's a signal to people you barely know that you're worth something. The packed closet isn't clothing, it's armor against the feeling that you haven't arrived yet. And the cruelest part of the stuff trap isn't that it drains your bank account. It's that it works temporarily. The purchase does feel good. The new thing does scratch the itch. For a few days, sometimes a week, the story holds. Then it becomes furniture, and the itch comes back louder. Real financial security doesn't come from accumulating things that signal a life well lived. It comes from building the actual capacity to live that life on your terms, on your timeline, without needing anyone's permission. The stuff was never the destination. It was a very expensive detour. If something in this video hit different, that feeling is worth following. Not into deprivation, not into throwing everything away tomorrow, just into one honest question about what you actually own versus what owns you. Next week, we're going into something even deeper. Why the financial advice that gets shared the most is almost always the advice that keeps you broke the longest. The stuff nobody in finance wants to say out loud. If you don't want to miss that one, you know what to do.